I've been here for 5 years and I've owned 5 businesses in 5 years. And I started giving back to the community. So I started asking myself, what should I do? I started browsing ideas. Then I'm like, podcast. I'll start a podcast. I won't be able to teach the audience because I'm not expert, not qualified to help anyone. But what I can do is ask bold questions to qualified people. And I'm going to ask, how did you make your first million? Because this is credibility. The purpose of this podcast was from the beginning is giving value and giving back. Because I felt like I owe this community. Carina, tell me your story in 1 minute.
You have to start with something so hard like that. So I was born and raised in El Salvador. Came here to Canada because of Civil War. Canada opened the doors for us as immigrants. And my dad made the decision to leave everything behind and bring us over here. I learned real estate from my dad. He used to buy a lot of land back home, sever it, sell pieces. That's how he ended up taking care of his dad when he got old and needed like some nurses to take care of him. So I learned a lot about properties and development through my dad, which was really nice. My mom been the foundation of everything, 4 girls. So she took care of us completely while my dad had 3-4 jobs coming to Canada.
Wow.
It was a big change. And we landed here in Ottawa, basically real estate. I went to school here. I took a government job just like everybody else does, right? And just grew into the real estate space and did my own little niche, my own little thing, and following only the things that make me excited. That's basically what I do.
That's a great story.
Exciting things.
That's a great story. Now I have so many questions for you because I heard your story. That's why I started with this question.
Yes.
So there's a question we always ask in this podcast, and this is the signature question.
Oh.
When did you make your first million and how?
So the first million was actually in 2019. And that was actually a rezoning. It was the most simplistic thing I've ever done. So we were doing development before that, transit-oriented development specifically. And I purchased a property that was right there around transit. I followed the plan. The city has a plan. It's called a secondary plan on how much intensification each lot can have. And as it gets closer to transit line, it goes higher and higher and higher. So I just followed the plan and I said, okay, it was a light industrial. It was a very small, low density, I should say, a low density zone, which is light industrial. The new secondary plan said 6 stories. So I just put in the application. You know, there's a zoning application, reports and studies that have to be done. But when you submit, you change the zone. So it goes from something of very low density to something of very high density. And I just refinanced it. A year later, refinanced the property. It went from $760,000 that we bought it for 2.2. And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people I interviewed and they made their first million in the first year of COVID in 2019? It's
Right.
crazy. That's when COVID hit, right? Like 2020 or 2019?
2020.
I think, yeah, end of 2019. 2020, correct. That's amazing.
And
Good
that was
for
a
you.
big part of it. You're right, because that's when the real estate boomed.
That's right.
And, you know, once we had the zoning change, our property went higher valuation than we ever expected it because everything went crazy. in
Did you
COVID.
ever think you will become a millionaire one day? Or you were just working to survive?
No, I always thought of it.
You said, I want to become a
100%.
millionaire.
Yeah.
Who mentored you through the last project that made you the $1 million? The first $1 million?
I'll be honest, I did not have a mentor.
You did
I
it on
did
your own.
not
No
have a
coaching, no
mentor.
mentoring.
No.
How about now? Do you have any?
I do. I have 2. And it wasn't for the lack of trying. I actually really wanted to find a mentor at the time. It just happened that I never found one. Most of them in the space are really busy, and they're not that they don't want to, but it's just really busy time for everybody. And I just never found one. So, but now I have 2 really, really great mentors.
How did you pick your mentor?
Couple ways. One of my first mentor, I selected him because he is a much larger developer than I am. And he literally built cities. So for me to get to that level, and that's where I want to aspire to.
Canadian mentor?
Yep, Canadian mentor. He does it in Canada and in the US. I want to follow someone that is already doing what I want to do. So that's one reason why I picked him. The other mentor, he is also a developer, but he's a business guy, a businessman. And so I love everything about business. I love learning about business. I love to understand different economic models. I love to understand how people make money, how they think outside the box, something like this. This is really cool what you have going on here.
Thank you.
Right? So thinking outside the box and not staying within, the black line and creating your own swiggly line or cross it, I think it's really, really cool. And that's why I selected him as my second mentor.
Is there a reason why both of your mentors are male, not female?
No, there's no really real reason, I'll be honest. I think there's a lot of women in business, a lot of women in the space. It just actually, you know what? There is. You know why? Because in the land development space, it's majority still very male-oriented space. So naturally, when I began, I didn't know any other women that was doing it. It was only men. That's changing now, though, right? Because we are teaching a lot of women to be land developers.
One of the reasons why I wanted to invite you on my podcast. We wanted to inspire all of the females out there that you can actually do it. And she's actually a mother as well.
Yes.
It's possible.
Very possible. Absolutely. So it just happened that they're both developers and they're both men, but it's just majority are.
Do you mentor anyone right now?
I do.
And do you charge for it or?
I do. So I do have a land development program that I run. And through that program, I take some students directly with me as one-on-one mentees. And some other students just want to learn on their own. They do have a coach, still one of my coaches, but the coaches will mentor them, not me directly, but it's one or the other.
This is just for the audience. If one of the audience is a female and wanted to ask you a question, would you charge them for it or would you do some pro bonos, like something payback for the community?
I am. So if you ask about me, you'll know that I'm a very giving individual. Even today, I still really much am. So I'm really all about I love to meet people. I love meeting people. I like talking to people. I like hearing the stories. So I'm always connecting with a lot of people. And through that, we end up having a lot of conversations, a lot of questions, a lot of bouncing around ideas or brainstorming, a lot of unblocking different hurdles that they're going through. So I do that all the time. So that for me is great. And that's how I end up building a lot of my network and doing all of these kind of things, really, really cool things to just meet brand new people.
That's amazing. So if you're a female out there and you have some questions, I encourage you to follow Carina and ask her all the questions that you want to ask her. We will add your Instagram if you want.
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, which platform?
Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
As well.
We will add those links in there and in the caption and make sure to reach out to her and ask. Stop being alone and stop being lost on your own and asking yourself so many questions. You won't find the answers because you have this much knowledge. Ask other people that have more knowledge than you, and then you'll find better answers. All right. So I wanted to build a new questionnaire for my season 2 for this podcast. And I was trying to find some good questions. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't I ask my audience, what would you ask a millionaire? So I have about 10 questions now from my audience on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram.
Yeah.
And actually, this interview will be asking those questions, and we will mention the people who asked the question, like their names. So I named every question after the person who asked the question.
Cool.
Okay, we're ready?
Ready.
Let's go. What sacrifices you made to get where you are today? And any regrets or things you would do differently? This question is from Andy.
That's a good question. I want to say that as a mom, and this goes for dads too, but as a mom, you're definitely making a lot of sacrifices for sure. So I had to make a lot of sacrifices when starting up a business. I originally actually started with a boutique shop. So I had a brick and mortar, all service, full service kind of boutique shop where you would do that. We would do that. Acquisitions, design, getting permits, and build. So I did that for many years, and bringing that from the ground up, probably no. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours. So doing that, and I had babies at home. So it was a lot of...
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 boys.
Oh.
Yeah, an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old now. But when I was starting that, my second one was not even a year old. So I was actually on my mat leave with him, starting at this new boutique shop.
Was the dad in the picture?
Oh yes, my husband is very much
still
involved.
Married?
Yes.
Okay.
Thankfully, we're still
married. I didn't get fed up with you yet.
Not yet, thankfully. So there's a lot of sacrifices, you know. My son was born. At the time, I put him in daycare at 3 months. Not what happened with my first son. My first son, I was with him the full year of maternity. But my second son, I really wanted to grow this business in what I was doing. So I took the opportunity on my mat leave to create something at the time. My mom helped, like she was such a big supporter. My dad helped, my husband was there. So a lot of really good people in my life, my family are so supportive of what I've done. So that helped a lot, but also it meant me being there. Like I remember being there at 2 a.m., working on a client file, and it's 2 a.m. in the morning and I'm still there, so I'm not with my baby, right? So at 3 months old. So it's a lot of sacrificing to do. Then as I grew into more of the development space, the same, right? I have multiple projects going at the same time. I have a growing team. My boys, very athletic. So sometimes I'm missing, their practices, or I'm missing a game or something like that because I'm out doing other things. My husband's amazing because he takes care of a lot of that stuff when I'm not around. We're really good at juggling that. That's like a big aspect of it. We're a good team, very good team.
He has a job? He has a job or he owns a business?
He's part of the business now.
Okay.
Yes.
What did he do before, like when you were?
He's an aviation engineer. Both of us work for NAV Canada. So that's where we met. NAV Canada governs pretty much all of aviation in Canada, for those of you who don't know. So that's where we met. And eventually he retired from government and came to work full time. So now he is the COO of Creative Dev Ventures, which is our land development company.
So you're his boss at home and at work. I'd like to interview this man.
Actually, no, we are a team. No. We are a team. So
I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
I know.
I'm just being funny.
Yeah.
So do you call not spending this time with family when you were starting this business regret, or you had to do it? Would you do it any differently?
It's so funny. I just had this conversation with my husband actually the other day. And I was like, I don't regret it at all.
Good job.
You know why?
Because it was worth it.
It was so worth it. Like I ended up closing the shop when COVID hit. We didn't need a brick and mortar anymore. But that led me to the development world that I'm in now. We're doing much larger projects. I don't think I would be where I am today had I not opened that up, I learned so much about business, running a business, working with people, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And at the same time, the boys are so little, they're babies. They actually don't remember that I was not there. I remember it. So I'm the one that feels bad as a mother. But now it's amazing because what I do with my boys now is that they are involved in absolutely everything. They're only 11 and 8, but when we're walking a property, they come. When we have investor calls, they see everything. When we have designing meetings, they are there as well with our architects, our entire team. They see it and they're
are your
part
best
of it.
Investment.
Exactly.
You're doing amazing. Good
now
job.
It's not one or the other. It's just a blend. It's a blended strategy.
I love
what
it.
We're doing.
I love it. That's such a great answer for this question. Thank you, Andy, for the question as well. Wow, I wouldn't have thought of it. All right, easy. There's some cheesy questions.
Okay. I like cheesy.
Easiest way to make money by Anthony.
Easiest way.
So what's the easiest way to make money in 2024?
Okay.
Are we in 2024 now?
We are.
Oh, yeah.
You're in the right universe.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm a developer, so I'm probably my
just
question
look at my
is
team.
probably,
They want the answer for this question.
Yeah. I'm kind of biased because I love the development space. I know it's a very great area for a lot of people, but if I had to say what is the easiest way to make money, is probably the sever and sell option. So sever and sell for me is like an awesome win-win situation. So what you would do normally is, let's say you have a piece of land and you look at the zone and you're going to say, okay, with the zone that exists today, I can sever this lot into 3 pieces. Okay. So if the zone allows it, you have the size, you have enough servicing, there's a little bit of, due diligence that have to happen to make sure you got everything right. But if you have the servicing, if you have the size, if you have the as of right zone, meaning the zoning right now allows you to sever this land, you could essentially get a free piece of property. You can sever the land. We've done this in the past, right? We'll sever something into 3. Let's say I'll sell the 2 pieces, to a developer or another builder that wants to build out. I keep the house. I keep whatever is left over here. And now I have a free property that I can do whatever it is that I want to do. Sometimes you just want to pay off the mortgages on everything, sell the 2, keep 1. Or if you want, sell everything. sell everything. Now you have cash. Now you can invest it passively or actively, however you would like to do it. Invest in yourself, of course. Do something that gets you to the next step. That's what I would do if I had to get my first million going.
That's
and
good.
that you can make $1 million just doing that alone.
Nice. What if you're starting without a budget?
So if you're not starting with a budget, then in that case, you have to get a little bit more creative. Definitely being somebody who has the knowledge is key, in my opinion, because then you can find a partner who has the money, and then you would do it together, right?
Like
So if I know the zoning, I can go and do the architecture. I can go and put the plan together. I can go talk to the city. I have the want and the hunger to do it. I can find the money's there. Money somebody already has. Money can be found anywhere. You just have to be really good with people. Talk to people.
Go do the research, get the knowledge, go find someone with the money, convince them, and do it with them.
Of course.
So it's not impossible.
100%. It's not impossible.
I love that.
Yeah.
Next question. I usually yell too much.
It's because I'm a soft speaker, so I think you're
so
mimicking
zen. And
my...
I also just came from Japan. It's so zen.
Oh.
So zen. No one yells there.
Yeah.
No one yells there. No.
They're very polite people.
I know. It was
Yeah,
so
isn't
boring.
it nice?
Yeah, it's nice. I like me some action. I like me some action. Some people fighting on the streets. Stuff. It's so clean, so nice. Honestly, good job for them. Honestly,
Yeah,
it wasn't
of course.
boring. It was a fun trip, and I was
Oh,
with actually 2 real estate developers.
No way.
Yeah, I was
Oh.
with Christian and Mark. I'll tell you after. I'll
Oh,
tell you
I
after.
saw that post. I didn't know you were there, though.
You saw the post.
I saw Christians putting a post somewhere.
You didn't swipe in the pictures.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
it.
My
Yeah.
picture is there.
Okay,
And I look
I
good.
missed it. I'm sorry.
All right, next question. What was the hardest thing about making your first million? It's from King T.
Ooh.
What was the hardest thing to make your first million?
The hardest thing, I guess, going through, I would say this is actually the hardest thing in anything. So every project is different. There never really is a cookie cutter. This is actually one of the questions I always get asked. Can you cookie cut something? If I figure out this, can I cookie cut it? You can in premise, but in practical, real life scenarios, it can never really fully be cookie cutter. So what I mean is completely 100% replicated because every site is different. So there's always going to be something that's going to change. However, that is what makes it interesting. Is because there's always going to be something to learn from that experience. So in that, you always find things that you never expected, unfortunately, but that's just life. So there's always something the same with that first million, right? You would think that, okay, I'm following the plan. The city wants this. They want intensification around transit. Should be a slam dunk. However, not necessarily, I think one of the hardest things was probably the delays, right? That were not expected. Sometimes you want to go in and out as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, that's
Doesn't
not
work like
always the
this.
case.
Not in the Canadian government.
Right? Not in Ottawa, especially.
Yep.
Right? So that's the hurdle, and having those things. COVID was a huge hurdle, right? We never expected the city to close for 3 months, and now our permits are not getting approved for 3 months, and you're carrying a property longer than you ever expected. And then you have to go and, tell everybody else why it's taking so long. So just things like that, it's always a challenge, but it's things that you have to figure out as you go in any kind of business.
You have to be patient and you can't give up.
Yeah.
Did you think of giving up while you were
No.
working on any project?
No,
Is it just like not an option for you?
it's not an option. I always feel like there's always a solution.
Nice.
There's always a solution.
It's a quote I
And
really
sometimes,
love.
what's that?
Sorry, keep going.
And if you can't, the one thing I've learned is that if I'm talking to an architect or an engineer or a planner or whoever it is that I'm talking to, and they're like, nope, this won't work. I'll just go and find somebody else. And then they'll be like, well, you know what? We did do this one thing one time. Maybe this would work here. And then you find the solution all of a sudden. It's just on who you talk to, really.
It's out there. Just
It's
keep
out
looking.
there.
Just keep
Yes.
looking. I always believe in one thing, like I'd rather die than lose.
Yeah,
And you don't lose if you don't quit.
exactly.
Just don't fucking quit.
Yeah, just keep going. Figure it out. There's always a solution.
All right. Next question. I like that question, King T. What is a daily habit that was easy to change that helped you be more successful? From Ember.
So
Ember is actually a real estate agent in Toronto. In the Toronto
Oh,
area,
okay.
yes.
Thanks for the question, Amber. One of the easiest things to change is adding more reading to my repertoire. So I love to work out. I love to eat healthy. My husband and I are pretty much like pretty vegetarian people. We don't eat a lot of meat to begin with.
Why?
Believe me, it was a big change. I added more reading.
I had cow liver for breakfast.
Did you?
Just so you know. And I'm proud. With garlic. Can you smell it?
No, I can't.
All right. So the food is one of the habits.
Yes, but the easiest one to add, I would say, would be reading. Reading, I love to read.
What do you read?
Mostly personal development style books.
Favorite 3 books?
Actually, it's going to sound super biased again, but 10X is Better Than 2X is by far one of my favorite books. And with that comes The Gap and the Gain, which is also the same 2 authors, which I absolutely love. How to Influence People. How to Make Friends and Influence People is one of my old-time favorites. I give that book to everybody that I know, including my children. So reading. 10X is better than
people, 10X is.
Yep, The Gap and the Gain.
Perfect. Any other habits that you do? Like this is something like you do on a regular basis. Gym, it could be dancing classes. It could be giving your husband a hard time.
That's like a full-time job in itself. It's almost like an art, actually. I'm pretty good at it. You know, one thing I do.
It's an art.
It's an art.
I should make a course. I think there's no market for it. Everyone knows how to.
I know. Everybody knows
every
naturally.
woman is an artist of giving hard time.
Men too, though. Men too, I gotta say.
Yeah, they're being dramatic these days. They're not dealing with the hard time very well. They're like crying. They want flowers now, man.
Some men, yeah.
Some men. Anyways, back to business.
That could be a whole other conversation.
I know. So any other habits that you actually like?
Okay. This one is going to sound really, really funny, but it actually works. A lot of us are able to get almost into a meditative state when you're doing something that comes very easy. For example, driving is one of those things, right? As you're driving, have you ever had when you're driving and you just completely miss your exit because you're just thinking in your head and you're just driving. You don't have to think about driving. You're just driving. So that's a meditative state. Some would say like a hypnosis state or a meditative state. The same happens when you're in the shower, when you're just like in your zone and you're just thinking about things. That is my favorite kind of what I think is my meditation state. And that's actually where I intentionally put the effort into saying, I'm going to think only about the things that I want moving forward in the future. I'm not going to be, a lot of us, what ends up happening, and I'm sure you know this, as entrepreneurs, we're always thinking, I got to make that phone call. I got to get back to this person. I got to do this. I know what my meditative actions are, which are driving, taking a shower, usually my first 2, or working out is another one where I can just do it and I can think and I get into this meditative state. So when I know that I'm getting into those actions that are going to get me to that meditative state, my goal is to only think about the things that I want to come to life. And that's it. And it works so great when I do that. And I am so good at it, JC, that if I know I'm like, oh, I want this person to contact me, I will think about them when I'm in this meditative state. And within 2 days, they will call me. Wow. I am so good at it.
Wow.
Yeah, I encourage anybody to focus on that and try that out.
I said this to someone actually 2 days ago. I said, everything that I wanted happened. Everything that I want is going to happen.
Yes.
I came here 5 years ago and I lived with my brother and his manager. His manager was born in Canada. My brother was here 8 months before me. That's 5 years ago. And I got a job 24 hours after I landed in Canada, rust-proof garage. I had to start from scratch. And I told them one day when I came back from work full of oil, told them I'm going to open a marketing agency and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, interview people. 2 years ago, I met the manager again. We reconnected. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's like, you motherfucker. You fucking did it. And I'm not a genius. I just said, I am going to have this. And I got it. And I didn't do anything special.
You believed in yourself.
Exactly. And now I have another goal and I know it's going to happen. Like what I tell my coaches, when this happens, that's what I'm going to do. Not if this happens.
Exactly.
And they're like, you're so sure.
Yeah.
You're so sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believe in this point. Yeah. Thank you for talking about it. Okay, next question. How do you manage your work-life balance? I think you spoke a little bit about it when you mentioned you're starting the business, etc. You can add some more stuff to it.
And who's that question from?
So actually, Armanda, she asked like 500 questions. Like, how do you manage your work-life balance? Do you doubt yourself? I do want you to really focus on this question because I've been getting so many questions like this. Everyone is doubting themselves. They do have values, they do have skills, but they're like, should I actually pursue it? Am I good enough? Am I going to please every client? She also asked, and how do you deal with it when you doubt yourself? And also, what is the secret to your success? So you can pick like 2 questions from there.
Okay.
Armanda is from Portugal.
Questions.
I met her in Portugal.
Wow.
Yes.
She's a good one, this one.
I think she was bored, but yeah. I'm joking.
She loves your podcast so much. She's very engaged in it. That's awesome. I don't focus in a work-life balance. So I don't define my life as a balance. I actually don't even think there is a balance, to be really honest. You're either doing one thing or you're doing the other. And if you're doing this thing, you're not doing the other thing. So I don't think that you can balance multiple things. Do think I'm pretty good at, and we're pretty decent at, it's just incorporating the 2 things together. My boys and my husband, they know me very well. And they know that when I'm in the zone, I'm in the zone. And I'm in the state where I'm a very big, like, if I see something come to my phone or my computer and I know the answer to it, or I do it right away. I don't delay until and that's not a balance thing, right? There is no balance to that, because that means that I'm not talking to my son here because I'm responding over here, right? So, but they know that. And I guess in a sense, I've set the expectation. It's just setting the expectation. And I explain it to my husband and my boys. They know this because I have so many things going on, just like most entrepreneurs do, that if I don't get to that item, I will literally forget. It'll literally leave my brain and I will not answer it. If it's something of importance to me, I do need to get to it, and I'll get to it right away, and then I'm done. And then we'll move on and do whatever it is that we were doing. But I've set that expectation with my own family for them to understand why I'm doing it, because I will drop the ball if I don't do it right away.
Setting expectations is a big one.
I think setting expectation.
Incorporate everything together. So like you take your kids to showings, you take them to work with you. So this is mom and son time. At the same time, your husband works with you. So everything is together. So you're not
everything is together.
I think that's a good hack.
We're just blended.
There's pros and cons there that you work with your partner. Your kids are always work with you, but I think the pros are more than the cons, no?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not all roses and rainbows for sure, but no. But I think that's okay sometimes, when I just need to get to that thing, and they know me enough. That's become a norm.
I think you're doing great.